Hello, and welcome back to Mr. B Teaches History. Today we will examine one of the most prominent reform movements during this time period, and that is freeing the slaves in the United States. So let's get to it. The Second Great Awakening fervently supported the end of slavery because it was seen as a sin, and compromise over issues of sin was difficult for those inspired by the people associated with the movement. Interestingly, it was the Northern women who spurred and organized much of the movement in its days. At the first worldwide convention of abolitionism in London, England, the women, who organized much of the work of the movement, were denied equal access to the event, which actually helped start the women's right movement and first wave feminism in the United States and the rest of the world. There are many groups associated with solving the problem of slavery in the United States. One of the earliest groups was started by Benjamin Franklin in the 1750s after he observed a school for escaped slaves and former slaves in Philadelphia. But in this era, the American Colonization Society is one of the earliest, starting in 1817. Their goal was the freedom of black slaves and then transport them back to an African colony called Liberia. The motivation was to remove them away from the racist attitudes of American society. William Lloyd Garrison also starts a newspaper in 1831 called The Liberator that wrote articles about the issues related to slavery. He then started the American Anti-Slavery Society in 1833. His newspaper and group called for an immediate end of slavery without owner compensation. He once also burned a copy of the U.S. Constitution as a pro-slavery document and thought that the United States should have no union with slaveholders until they repented and freed their slaves. Lastly, from 1840 to 1844, the Liberty Party ran candidates for public office with a pledge to end slavery. Some of the most convincing abolitionists were individuals, especially black abolitionists who were former slaves. They were obviously its most outspoken and convincing critics. Also, many individuals, including former slaves, assisted slaves escaping to free territory in the Underground Railroad. Harriet Tubman, an escaped slave herself, was one of the most prolific leaders in that movement, helping over 1,000 people escape slavery from the South. Another former slave, Frederick Douglass, started his own anti-slavery journal called the North Star in 1847. And even though he spoke critically of the slavery system and its place in the United States, he thought that the Constitution had within its power and processes the ability to end slavery. Others like David Walker and Henry Garnett advocated for slaves to rise up against their masters. Some did, including the most notorious slave revolt of Nat Turner in 1831. He learned to read the Bible and had dreams of leading his people to freedom. His revolt killed 55 whites and led to hundreds of black slaves being killed to end the revolt. Revolt and inflamed rhetoric ends many of the anti-slavery movements in the South so that they are not present there. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or clarifications you would like to make about this lecture, please leave a comment below. If you learned something new, please consider leaving a like. If you would like to receive notifications of more content like this, please consider subscribing and ringing the notification bell. If you would like to support this channel and creator financially, please check out the links in the description for merchandise or sites that will provide me direct financial support for the work of this channel. Thank you for your time and have a great day. Class dismissed.